What's going on, everyone? Your friendly neighborhood fanboys are back. We all just saw The Flash finally. Dan and I saw it about 2 weeks ago, but now we're all up to speed. We finally got to see it.
Up to speed.
We're starting this one off hot right now.
Like a speedster.
Holy.
Yeah, we finally got to see it. Dan and I's cut of the movie did not have the last part of the film or the post-credit scene in it, so we got to see that. And that brings me to my next point. There will be spoilers. This is a spoiler review. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, you can check out our spoiler-free review first. And then when you see the movie, you can come back here and you can break it down with us.
If you haven't seen the movie yet, have this open on YouTube, mute it, and then just like keep it on repeat. Like keep like viewing it on repeat. And then when you've seen it, come back to it and turn the audio on and then watch it.
Mm-hmm. I like that plan.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm doing tonight.
Go into the Speed Force, come back, and then rewatch it, and then it just constantly is going through an infinite loop in time.
And
while you're at it, hit that subscribe and like button because we love you and miss you. Thanks for tuning in.
And if you're listening to this podcast on an audio-only platform like Apple Music or Spotify, please drop us a 5-star rating. Nothing less than that, though.
We will find you. Let's start off. Just go around. We'll start off with Dan. Just quick little niblet. What were your thoughts? We already know our thoughts, but
second viewing was pretty much what I thought the second viewing was going to be. So positive. I enjoyed it. I still stand by everything I said in the spoiler-free review. I think it was a fun movie. It's not perfect, but it's a lot of fun. It's enjoyable. It's good. It's the best thing DC's done in a while, and I'm happy with it.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna ride off that too. I'm pretty much the same as when I came out the first time. In the spoiler-free review, I said, fun movie, really, really cool aspects about it. Like, loved all the Flash stuff. Wasn't too hot about, some of the visuals in the time bubble. But, yeah, I enjoyed it, and I found myself laughing a little more this time. What'd you guys think? First viewing.
Yeah, this is what I want to know. This is the important. This is the interesting part.
Oh my God, it's all riding on us.
Let's hear it.
I think it was a lot of fun. It was good. I was pretty satisfied with it overall. I would say, I know you guys did a rating. I would say a 6.5 to a 7.
That's exactly where I'm sitting at.
Yeah, I went in with low expectations for whatever reason. My hype died down, and I was very pleasantly surprised.
Very nice.
Cool. Reese?
Honestly, I loved it. I thought it was great. I thought it was fun. I left the theater super happy. I was excited. I think out of the four of us, I liked it the most because I'm going to give it a 7.5 or an 8. I
That's
agree.
basically like giving it a 10.
I know. I agree.
Anything above a 7 is a 10.
I agree with all of your gripes that we kind of talked about in the car ride home. I totally agree. But I think the overall likeness of the movie, it didn't pull me out of the movie. I enjoyed it for what it was, and I can't wait to watch it again.
I agree.
Can't wait to watch it again.
I agree.
So with that being said, let's piggyback that. Yeah. So you gave it a 7.5. So what were your favorite moments of the movie, in your opinion?
Well, there was this Batman in there that,
Sorry, what's his name?
Yeah,
Just
actually,
Batfleck.
Probably
Ben
one of the
Affleck.
best iterations of Batman. And you know who casted him as Batman? Yeah, Zack Snyder.
Castian Andor.
Yeah. So, no, obviously that scene just led the movie. I was excited. I looked over a bunch of times, and Alex was literally just like hand over mouth, just excited. Yeah. But other than that, I think all the Speed Force stuff was awesome. I thought Ezra's performance was amazing. I thought it was really well done. Supporting actors were all fantastic as well. But yeah, like overall positives, I thought the humor hit pretty well for me. I thought all their jokes were nice. There wasn't a lot of Marvelisms.
Well, we just coined that term now.
Marvelisms. How else would you describe it, though, right?
It's true.
Yeah. I'll let somebody else take it from here. Those would be my positives.
Well, I want us to let's just start with you guys because obviously we've heard our thoughts. Mm-hmm. How about you?
What was the question? Like
you were hitting like a 6.5-ish,
Oh, yeah.
7. So in your opinion, what are the highlights? The stuff you found that was great.
Well, Ben Affleck cannot be topped. He can't. And honestly, I wish. I don't know how the movie ended because I left after the Affleck stuff. So I wish I would have said no. I'm just kidding. No, you already said the Affleck stuff.
Keaton, though,
I was just about to
a
say
happy
that.
surprise
Oh
with
my-
his
Yeah.
fight scenes and stuff.
I know you guys aren't as keen on the Keaton stuff. I love the original 1989 Batman and Batman Returns. I loved how he was integrated into the movie. I thought a lot of his sequences, especially his first fight sequence, was phenomenal. Like that was great. Oh, I'm not talking about like in the kitchen. I'm talking about like in the actual.
Yeah.
Other than
Although I
that,
thought the kitchen scene was hilarious.
Yeah.
yeah,
It
no,
was a
good.
good comedy bit. Yeah.
And I just, it kind of played off of Keaton's comedy and charisma that he had even in those older movies. Other than that, though, I really liked the concepts with the Speed Force. I thought the emotional beats with the family were very hard hitting as well. I was very surprised by Ezra's performance. I know I've been pretty vocal on here that I'm not the biggest fan of Ezra Miller as a Flash. I think they really upped their game for this movie. Like, I thought it was great. The third act villain, I wanted to see a little more of. I wanted that to be fleshed out a little more.
Yeah.
I was very pleasantly surprised by Supergirl. I actually really liked a lot of the
Yeah.
Supergirl stuff in there. Other than that, aside from some little, story gripes here and there, I thought it was good.
Her suit actually looked really good on screen.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
honestly,
yeah.
it
Enjoyed it.
really grew on me because those first screenshots. I feel like every
She was in a
time,
harness in those screenshots, though, right? I think that's what
Yeah,
people were
well, and
complaining
everything
about.
just looked really flat. It really like popped a lot more on screen. I think honestly, I really gotta stop falling in the trap of judging like the first ever shots ever released because
Yeah.
I don't think any person ever in the existence of superhero movies has liked the first release ever. Of any character, it's like, well, it's not. It's like it's taken on it's like a shitty screen grab.
Yeah.
That's not a really good
Well, it's always
representation
like
of what a
set
screen
photos
act.
too.
Right,
So you're
exactly.
just like, what am I looking at? Like even the actual Flash suit and the new suit.
Yeah, perfect.
Mes-
example.
I
mesmerizing.
hated it when I saw it
Yeah.
in the.
But it
like,
looked great.
Oh, it was
Yeah.
mesmerizing.
Yeah.
Like,
literally, it
really,
looks so good.
yeah.
I also
so
like
good.
that they gave the Flash like a thicker build in
Yeah.
this one. I noticed,
yeah.
which was cool.
Yeah.
Because
100%.
I thought I really liked the BVS and I guess he's not really in BVS, but like the Justice League suit looked
For,
cool
for
too.
the
but-
context of like what stage he's at, I think that suit really works. And like
Yeah.
actually, it's funny because I was never like really big fan of it, but then after seeing this suit and then going back, and I think we watched Justice League like kind of recently, and then seeing it there, I was like, holy shit, like that's a really good suit too. Like,
Yeah.
so I'm starting to appreciate both of them more. The more and more I see them in the suit, like the more and more I appreciate both iterations, and it really fires me up to see that suit in motion because it's like right out of the books with its
It
own
was-
like unique.
I'm
spin.
gonna say this right now, and this is gonna be controversial for this table of gentlemen here, but I think I prefer this suit to the Justice League and
Yeah.
BVS
Oh, I
suit.
think that's a given.
Yeah,
I
agree
it
with
was
that.
it was phenomenal. Like it was so visually magnetic is how I would describe
Yeah.
it. It was visually magnetic.
And like the thing, sorry,
Sorry,
you
I'm-
go
I'm
ahead
being
because I cut
a
you
dick,
off
No,
initially.
no, you're good. I was just gonna say visually, but then paired with the new kind of sound designs and everything, and the score even too, like. Benjamin Floorbird was unreal. Like, just crushed it.
Is it Benjamin
Floorboard,
Wallfish?
yeah.
Oh, okay. The only reason I know that is from Blade
Runner,
'cause
yeah,
Blade
yeah.
Runner with
No, but like
Hans, the greatest
that
of all
compared,
time.
like the score compared with the sound design for everything that when the Flash was doing Speed Force stuff was brilliant. Like I was blown away.
It was really cool.
Yeah.
Like my favorite part is when the track "Run" plays. When he's it finishes like
He's on the phone with his dad.
Yeah, he's on the phone with his dad. He sees like what happened to his mom. He's just like recalling it and whatever. And then that shot of him turning to the street to like run away is so mesmerizing to me. That's what I was looking forward to most about actually seeing this the second time was him walking towards camera in the suit is so fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Just the way it's framed. The
Yeah.
suit itself looks
Yeah.
fucking incredible. They look great in the suit. And then that song builds up and he fucking takes off, blows through the Speed Force, and then you see him get into that like blue zone
Yeah.
of it too.
That was cool.
Yeah, that was cool.
Was just like,
They, like,
everything about it.
separated
My
the
mind was just like,
depths of the Speed
like
Force.
I literally I had to put my snacks down, and then I was so mesmerized that I forgot about them. And they melted in my lap, and I was pissed.
That scene in particular is really cool too because that's a little nod to JL as well when he enters the Speed Force, and you really
Yeah,
get to
the
see
blue.
the blue, and like you were saying in the car, the Galaxy. Like I remember when we first saw it on the first screen, that's the first thing I saw. I was looking at his feet. That's how like psychotic I am. I'm like, I want to see what happens when he enters the Speed Force, and like they did the effect, and they did do like that footstep kind of exploding effect, which was like I really appreciated that small little nod. And even too, there were a few other nods to JL that were pretty cool.
There were,
Like they
that's
canonized
worth
it.
it,
There were
You know?
plenty of
There
them.
was, it
Well,
exists
the
very
hand
much
on
in the
the snow.
Snyderverse,
for sure.
Yeah.
Like they,
which we love.
yeah, like the nods were great, but like talking about purely just canonizing Zack Snyder's Justice League, I think was a nice gesture by the studio to be like, okay, like we know we screwed up, like now we're actually gonna make your story canon. And actually what canonizes it is Iris even being in the movie.
Yeah.
True.
Because she's not even in the Whedon cut.
But like the
what
specific line is,
There's
is
two lines.
she
Yeah.
says, "Haven't I seen you recently?" And that's
And he's
referring
like,
to the
yeah.
scene when he saves her
Yeah.
from the bus and then bolts it away. So like that's
Yeah.
the scene.
And
she's
then the
referring to
other
there.
one is when him and Ben Affleck are talking, and Ben Affleck says something. I'm obviously heavily paraphrasing, but didn't you already go back in time
Yeah.
in what's the name of the city? It's some
In a silo, and he's like, yeah,
the
but that was
silo.
only seconds.
That was
This
only
is, like,
seconds. This is-
years now.
yeah.
I'm trying
And
to
like
go back.
you know, and just to further reiterate on that, and like one of the small differences. I mean, there was major differences obviously between like the theatrical cut and Zack Snyder's Justice League, but in the scene when he touches the mother box to bring back Superman in the Whedon cut, the box doesn't come back out of the water and then
Nope.
him push it back in. He
touches
hits
it at
it
the
and then it
exact
goes
moment.
into the box. So like even if you're like, oh well, he's referring to that moment. No, he's referring to like the moment when he actually like saved everybody from
100%.
Darkseid, right? So yeah, no, that's I actually didn't pick up on that. I had a hard time hearing what he was
I
saying
didn't
there,
hear
so
that
I didn't
line
pick
the
up
first
on that.
time,
I picked up
actually.
on the Iris West
Yep.
line, but I didn't pick up on that. So that's cool that there was actually two like official dialogue exchanges referring to it. But
Was
there
it like the first line in that scene?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It's like a blink and you like, because literally I don't remember him saying that. I thought the only connection was the Iris line, which is why I think
Right.
even in our spoiler-free review, I'm like, oh, there's one little connection to it. No, like that line was like very.
And even
good.
when I talked about it, I was referring to the stylistic, like the CG of the Speed Force when he first goes in. That's what I was referring. I wasn't even referring to Iris. And then like after I saw it with it, I was like, oh yeah, so there's like an actual verbal. So anyways, yeah, it's cool that they actually verbalize
100%.
the existence of that movie.
Now, let me ask you guys a question, because what changed, or did you guys have any change in opinion, change in view between the first and the second viewing? Because we're fresh, right? So it's actually an interesting dynamic we normally don't have.
True.
So,
I do. Here's the thing. It's like I know when we got out of the theater, there was like differing opinions on like the CG. I still
Stand by that.
Yeah, the Chrono Bowl stuff to me, even if it was a stylistic choice to have them not look real, to like, you know, have them move in different ways and like, you know, justify what they're doing with the story, I think looks bad in my opinion.
Yeah.
And
I agree. I agree.
I don't think I'm alone in that, because a lot of the early reviews have been very much so harping on that. They could have done like, you know, more stylistic Speed Force type images or like mirages of these people, or just spend some money. Like deepfakes are very, very common these days, and they look great for the most part. If some guy on YouTube can do, you know, a great deepfake, just throw a CG model of their body and like deepfake their face to make it look better. Like there was parts where you see Zod after they go back and change a bunch of
was the Zod stuff.
and you see like full CG renderings of everyone and even like the second barrier, and you're like, why did they do that? So that pulled me out. I still agree with my initial viewpoint on that. What did change for me is some of the comedy bits that I didn't pick up on the first time landed this time for me. So I got more enjoyment out of that. And then I think I even liked the majority of the movie better after seeing all the Flash stuff in action and seeing the suit again, because I was like, that's just so cool.
yeah. What about you, Dan?
Yeah, I'm still feel the same way about the CG. I had like a small thing being like, oh, maybe they polished it. Maybe we saw like an early cut, like an early cut, but it still remained the same. For me, it was like I didn't like how they should have tread more, like what you said, treaded on more on the side of the stylistic end in the cosmic orb, the chronosphere, is that what it's called?
Something like that.
Or the Speed Force. I just call it the Speed Force. I think the problem is that some people will argue that they were trying to do it stylistically, but the way it's rendered, it just looks really flat, and it really treads into the Polar Express uncanny valley of faces.
That's a good.
You know what I mean?
That's a good
You know what I
comparison.
mean?
It's
Like, you know, the
plastic.
weird warping. Like, there was
yeah.
one shot specifically of Zod where it's just like it didn't even look like Michael Shannon at one point. He just had this like this Thanos grimace.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, it's just weird to look at. And
Like
like,
they could have used stock footage.
Not
for
even
that.
that.
You know what I mean?
Not
It's
even
like
that,
they
dude.
really could have
would've been
used
better
like
than
stock
doing that.
footage and then just like made a 360 and then
Like they
just
used to do in like
multi-
PS1. Remember
Yeah,
PS1
that's what I'm
fucking Harry
saying.
Potter?
but there were shots
Yeah.
that they actually had in the like one of the ones that frustrated me the most. And like, I know obviously I'm not a CG artist, but like they had a shot of like the nurse that he saves at the beginning when the babies are falling down.
Oh,
He
that
saves-
looked the babies looked
Okay,
awful.
yeah, the babies
Yeah,
look
that
awful.
looked
But what I'm
terrible.
saying is,
so bad.
Rubber.
what I'm saying is, they used the same shot, like it was her same facial expression from the same angle when he's first enters into the cosmic sphere, and or the whatever into the Speed Force.
into the Spider Verse.
Yes, and there's the shot of him like exploring it, and you see like the shot of her screaming, and it's like why is that CG? Because it's very clearly it's got that like kind of like flat
Yeah.
clay looking.
Again,
Anyways,
it's like
whatever.
unnecessary moments. That
They
didn't
should have,
have
in my opinion, I think it would have been cool if they went further on the stylistic style. Like, think, for example, when Jor-El in Man of Steel is explaining the history of Krypton to Cal, and it's like that cool tech, the cool Kryptonian tech. I'm not saying it has to be the Kryptonian tech, but lean into that. Make it very clear that this is a fantasy is not, it's not trying to be real. Besides that, that was like my biggest thing leaving the theater, and I still stand by that. Honestly, this time now, I was a little bit turned off by the end of the movie by the second Barry, the alternate Barry. I thought and I know that was the point of the character. He was supposed to be very obnoxious. I was just a little tired by the end of the movie. Like
yeah.
it became a little exhausting for
That's
me.
fair.
But this time, it didn't bother me as much because I was fully expecting that arc. So I didn't laugh I laughed a lot more in the first movie or the first viewing. I didn't laugh as much in this one, but I wasn't as annoyed by the obnoxiousness of his character.
The hardest you laughed in that movie was when the animated dog
Yeah.
on the credit scene. I look over
Yeah,
and
literally.
Dan
We're all
is
silent.
Yeah,
Dan's
we're
losing
silent
his
processing.
mind.
And Dan is legitimately losing his
We
mind.
didn't get credits when we saw it though.
That's
So
true.
the way our movie ended. So this is how
Yeah.
we saw it. It ended on the shot of the Bruce Wayne. Well, obviously in the version we saw it was George Clooney. For us,
No, it was Keaton in our version.
no.
But
I'm
you
saying
don't see
no.
it.
I'm talking about the one we just saw.
Ah.
I'm saying for us, it ended on the foot.
Keep up.
Oh, I thought you were saying referring to us as the first time we saw it.
No,
Sorry.
the version we just saw is George Clooney. The version we saw was just the foot shot of him getting out of the car, cuts to Barry. Who the fuck is that? That's that, and then black, no credits, no nothing. So then when the dog came, I just thought it was funny. But anyways, we should talk about. I mean, well, should we
Well,
talk
let's
about?
go in on your point a little bit.
I was gonna say, can I make a contrasting
Sure.
Oh,
Sure,
statement
yeah.
on
okay.
that? So
Sure, you
I
can.
do agree that the CG is less than ideal for the Speed Force stuff. It definitely does look clay. I agree with your point of like either go more stylistic with it or, I mean, there's enough technology now and you guys had enough time and enough money to do it realistically. 3D scan somebody. You already have 3D scans for half the people in this movie already. Just do that. However, I still thought it was fucking sick. It wasn't bad enough to take me out of it, which is funny for me because usually I'm pretty critical on that
Wasn't
shit.
a deal breaker, is what
Wasn't
you're
a deal
saying.
breaker.
I agree
Hence
with
why,
that.
but that's what makes it a 7.5 for
Right.
me and not like an 8 or a 9. Other than the fact that I think the third act definitely had some pacing issues, especially with that new villain that came out. It's like he popped out of the Speed Force, they killed him immediately. Oh, awesome! Who is that
Yeah.
guy? Like, anyways,
Well,
we know who it was. They
let's-
set it up. However,
Yeah.
let me say
Sorry,
one
yeah,
thing.
go ahead.
The Zod shit, yes, looked awful. However, I fucking loved how much of an animal they made him in this movie. They just couldn't kill
Yeah.
him. They're like,
I
well, we just
vigorously
accept
disagree.
defeat. Like, Zod is just fucking murdering
I-
people. Like, it was so cool to
Yeah.
just see him at, like, because I think you mentioned when we were walking to the car, you're like, yeah, like, Superman was the only one who could kill him. Like, nobody could kill him in this one. Like, he was just, like, he was getting defeated at first, but then,
Yeah, I agree.
I think this is okay. Let's just.
We're
Let's
about
just
to
this
get
is
heated
where
right
this
now.
is where I think we all defer.
Yes.
that's why I said
And
it was going to be
this
a
is
contrasting.
This is a line of frankly, I'm I'm shocked you feel that way because I feel very
Are you,
strongly that
Dan?
Zod was fucking nerfed in this.
Okay,
I
so
thought
He was
Zod
nerfed.
Was
No,
We didn't
no, no.
lose.
He's the
I
reason
thought-
why Black Flash
I
is
thought
Black
he was.
Flash.
I thought
Black
he was.
Flash drove himself
He was
insane
Okay,
trying
here's-
to
Can't beat
here's
him.
the
Yeah,
thing.
ghost
okay.
of
I'm
the
gonna be
former
the
The table
middle.
is literally divided in half.
No.
I'm
I'm gonna be the
shocked.
middle ground between both of your fucking points.
Okay, all right.
I think yes, Zod was shown to be very powerful. Obviously, he kills Kara multiple times.
Yeah.
Okay, I agree with that. I agree with you saying that he was also nerfed, but not in the way you're saying it. I think the way it was shot, the way it was executed, the CG in that entire sequence is what makes that appearance of him garbage.
It took
to
away
me.
the gravitas
Yes.
of him a little
Yes.
bit, and that
Okay,
menace.
I
So like
I agree with
when,
that.
when
Yeah.
he's ground pounding or whatever, I'm watching a PS3 game. I'm not watching the Zod we all know and
Right.
love
Sure.
beat the shit out of Supergirl.
Sure.
Right.
So
I can agree with
nothing hit me. It didn't give me that same impact, even though yes, he was doing.
See, it did for me though. Like I didn't mind that because I was like, I'm not shitting on Man of Steel at all, but there were some scenes when they're flying around where it looks like this. I think.
So yes, because of the time, sure, I agree, but the actual setting just baked it in more for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like it's a
the way it was
generalized
shot
like
was
oh
better.
they're in
You're
the
a lot more
desert, it's flat.
You're in
Yes.
Kal-El's perspective when he's fighting Zod.
Sure.
In this one, it's just a big aerial wide shot.
Yeah.
Also, too,
Well,
we
yeah,
have to keep in mind
exactly,
as well, like this is like Zod without his full Kryptonian power. Like he's still suited. He's not like,
I was waiting for Kara to knock the helmet off him,
and then he becomes
and then
like,
he
an
like
animal again.
adjusts his
If
senses.
they got rid of those breathers,
Yeah, that
like the CG, like I actually would have probably vastly changed.
Yeah,
my
I don't know
opinion,
why
'cause it
they.
looked
I don't know
so
why
bad.
they kept having that on, and like
really bad.
I think it's because they were CG for most of it, so that's why they kept it.
They were
on
trying to
hide
cover it, yeah.
that's for
However,
sure.
I do think aside from those technical issues that take away from that menacing aura that Zod has, I think his display of power
was unbelievable.
is like on 11 here because again, he is the reason why the Black Flash is the Black Flash.
Because he can't
went
get
back-
past this moment.
he went back so many goddamn times to try and save Kara, and he literally could not. But he was so convinced that he was going to be able to do it, but Zod killed everyone still.
yeah.
So, like, you can't say
I
that.
get.
You know what I'm saying?
So can
I get your point. I just disagree that you're saying we can't think that way because personally, because Black Flash isn't fleshed out, it doesn't have impact for me still. It's like, yes, I understand that
I wanted to talk about that,
in the
actually,
story,
Black
yes,
Flash.
that
Okay,
is
as
the
well.
reason why
Yes.
Dark Flash is the way he is.
I'm
but
just- that's-
there
I'm
was
just
there was no
explaining-
gravity to it.
I
for
know
me.
what Reese is saying though. I
All I'm
understand
saying,
what Reese is
as an
saying.
isolated character, what I'm trying to say is like I agree. It doesn't. It like story wise, it doesn't impact anything. I'm just strictly saying Zod was a fucking animal in that part of the movie.
And let me say this: they spent way too much time on the Zod fight as
Correct.
well.
Yes,
and
that I agree with.
One thing I do want to quickly interject by saying what.
I never got to say why I did like my point, like on this side of the argument.
Okay, go ahead.
So it just before we like divert, the reason why I thought that like he wasn't as impactful was like obviously for screen time's sake they couldn't have a half-hour fight like they did in Man of Steel. So I get that, but I just felt that like he got one punch in and then Kara like instantly had him like pinned against the wall and then like yes he won in every circumstance, but it's because like she was distracted. Like she was like, okay, I'm gonna stop the world engine, stabbed in the back. She falls because like Flash interfered, they made the tornado. She fucking gets sent to the side and then picked up by what's her name, and then Feora, and then gets stabbed. So it's like it's not like she beat him basically every time, but then like got distracted and then Zod won. Like and
that's
like
like
every
say-
single time, like he never really did anything to fight her. Like he did one thing.
Well, let
right?
me ask you a question.
Versus Cal fought tooth and bone. They're fucking snarling at each other, throwing each other through buildings. Kara just goes poof, hits him
Well,
with the
then-
pipe, and then he's like crucified on the
Let me ask you
on
a
the
question.
ship.
Let me ask you a
And
question,
That
though.
was it, right?
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah, go for it.
Yes. Kara got distracted the couple times that we saw. Well, then how come the Black Flash couldn't find a way, bro?
Because who's the black? He got
How
his
come he
powers
couldn't-
10 minutes ago.
Yeah,
But
he ran
it is
millions-
implied, though, that
he
he
ran
was there,
millions
he was-
of different scenarios.
He ran millions of
Right?
different scenarios,
And he
but
still
still had
couldn't
the
beat
experience. It would still had the experience of a guy who got his powers 10 minutes
Well, I mean,
ago.
there's two ways to look at everything.
his
right?
hair's
It's
gray,
because
so he's old.
Supergirl,
That's what I mean.
in the way they wrote her, is vastly inferior to Superman. So
Well, yeah, because
Sure.
he got a fraction of the time. But
Yeah, because she just became. Yeah. Okay. There's all these points we could
Yes.
say. I see where you're coming from.
That's
Dan.
all I'm saying. No,
Yeah,
like,
I see where you're coming from. It's just, to me, I loved seeing that because it was like you said, Black Flash was stuck in this moment forever because he couldn't beat Zod.
Yeah.
So to me, that's like, okay, so Zod's
100%.
And,
mean,
and it was just cool
Flash,
to see him like,
Savitar, I don't know. I'm just calling him Black
yeah,
Flash.
it was cool to just see him literally like
think-
ground and pound. He was like smart. He was still that like smart Zod, like hey, I'm gonna figure this out no matter what because I'm a tactical genius. And then also him winning every time.
yeah,
too,
like
was sick.
again, I see all your points. I just personally don't like it because I shouldn't say I don't like it. I do like it. I just don't like how it was executed and how quick it was. Like there was no. It didn't have the same impact that him getting all these powers and abilities and using his brain had in Man of Steel.
which it never would
I
have.
agree.
It never would have, and
Exactly.
which is
So-
it's kind of hard to sit here and like criticize it because obviously he's never going to be like that. It's like what Michael Shannon himself said in that Vanity Fair interview. It's like Man of Steel was a deep dive character
Exactly.
study
Mhm.
of
Exactly.
Zod and his tactics as a leader and why he did what he did. So like I get it. I can't sit here on my pedestal and be like he wasn't the same because obviously I just felt that the power levels were askew and it kind of left a sour taste compared to like the like such a high and menacing feeling you get watching Man of Steel.
I understand what everyone's saying here. I understand what you guys are saying, but I think that speaks to a larger issue in the movie. And my main gripe of the film was the pacing, right? First of all, that Zod fight was way too long because Zod was kind of treated like the big bad in the movie, but what he really was a mechanical, not a mechanical, but like a plot device. Just showing he gave birth kind of to that sort of Black Flash.
He was a stepping stone.
Exactly. I would have liked to see more of the Black Flash laced throughout the movie. And I know that's like, I thought that was really poorly paced. And for people that are listening saying, well, how would you have done it better? I'll tell you how I would have done it better. As Barry's running through the different timelines, you see, well, when he first goes into the Speed Force, you see him trying to come at him and then he knocks him out or whatever. But like, I would have liked to have him kind of like that looming presence, kind of like how Savitar was in the show, how every timeline maybe Barry would go into, he's like there following him or knocking him out of like the timelines
he's
or
trying
whatever.
to hunt Barry to like stop him from trying to change anything because he has his own motives.
He shows up and in 5 minutes he's like, "Yep, I pushed you out of the sphere first to first of all create myself, and you're my hero and all that." Like all those ideas individually are really interesting, and that's what makes Flash such a great character because he has those villains like that. And when you're dealing with time travel, it gets cool. But I mean, they could have cut down on the like the dumb like roommate like debate in the apartment with all that kind of stuff. They could have cut down on the Zod fight, and they could have spent more time developing the Black Flash. That was my main gripe with it. Everything else was great. Like there was great emotional like beats with like his parents and like the way they do the flashbacks that you were saying earlier was very clever. The stuff where he's talking to his mom was all great. However, setting up the villain, like it was like literally watching. I don't know if you guys saw the Fantastic Four. Like the
one?
newest, the
I
the
actually
most
finished
recent
it
one.
through.
Yeah.
I never finished it.
Doctor Doom shows up and in 5 minutes he's dead, right? That was like this.
Fan forced it.
You know?
It's a great
So
movie.
that's what I will say about that. And then, I don't know what you guys also thought about it.
Yeah, I think that again is what lowers my score of it. Is just the pacing. It's like the third act, they lead up to this whole big fight, and then he's dead. In 2 seconds, and it's like, oh, okay, cool.
But there was great ideas there. Right?
Yes.
There was great ideas in that villain. I'm like, oh man, like I wish we would have focused on this instead of spending a literal half hour fighting Zod for like no reason.
For sure. And like like regardless of the third act, I'll say that like the first 2 acts were paced pretty well.
They were.
I agree.
I know I got to go back to this for a sec, but like when you see Ben Affleck's Batman and Alfred and Wonder Woman and Barry all teaming up.
Oh my gosh.
It's cemented in my head that like this is what we could have been already seeing for 6 years if they didn't divert from the original plan.
That thought in my head.
Right? Like seeing Ben Affleck back in the suit, I'm like, my God, like I would love to see him command the Justice League more. I would love to see more little side stories like this. Like Barry and Victor going off and doing stuff. Green Lantern eventually
want
coming
some
in.
fun.
and
Isn't
doing
that an
stuff,
interesting
like-
touch that like the first person he looked for was Victor?
Yeah.
Too, like as his buddy. Like I thought that was a
Literally.
cool little like small detail when he's
Yep.
kind of.
Oh my god, you can't even talk about Affleck. Like, man, when you when you hear his voice, when the bat wing opens up and you just see like behind him on like the motorcycle,
Yes.
you're like, he's the best. He's like literally the best.
The
And
big epic score playing like.
I would have loved to have the dun, dun, dun.
Yeah.
Like,
It was
I
very
would
close.
missed
It was
love
very
to
close,
have
but
that
yeah.
missed opportunity. But like when I'm watching that scene, I was just getting like angry because I'm like, what the like you're telling me that I could have had 3 movies, 2.5 hours with nothing but this? And you didn't give it to me? Like seriously. Like I'm watching it and I'm like what am I watching? Now we have Robert Pattinson back.
Which is great.
That's what they took
Which
from
is
you.
great.
Yeah, I loved it. It
Alex,
was
that's,
awesome.
that's what they took from you, man.
That's what you have taken from me.
Yeah, obviously we love Robert Pattinson's Batman. Clearly,
Yes.
this channel was
Yeah, he's great.
forged on the back of
Yeah, it literally
that
was.
movie. So
Honestly, I love the movie. It's great. It's just
yeah,
he's second. Like I don't know. I don't know.
Ben Affleck is a personal
one.
favorite of,
Right,
of
Dan?
ours.
let's not even get into it because
We'll do a whole podcast with a debate one day about Batman.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, like this video if you think we should.
So yeah, I think. How about we touch on what we think about this story potentially continuing going forward? Because obviously, spoiler alert, again, if you're this far, you've had everything spoiled at this point. But we end on a kind of a Clooney stinger, which is just for laughs, honestly, because it's widely known that he considers himself the worst Batman ever, and so does everyone else. So except for Alex's dad.
My dad low-key loves the George Clooney Batman. Yeah.
And then we also got another post-credit scene with Aquaman in it that heavily implies that this is still this different timeline.
A very important post-credit scene, by the way.
Yeah, which just so happens to have Aquaman, unlike the other one that he was in. Anyway.
Yeah, can't picture the movie without it.
I'll tell you what, to those people saying, oh, this perfectly opens the door to the DCU, I strongly
doesn't.
disagree with you.
I don't think so either.
Okay? Nothing that they set up or showed implies that they could now peacefully go forward and pretend like that main DCEU timeline isn't a thing.
It's more unresolved now.
Yes, it's more unresolved because it would be different if, they pulled a Flashpoint animated movie idea, which is like the more and more he stays in one timeline, the more and more he forgets the previous one. They could do that, but they don't set that up. They don't touch on it. They don't do anything like that.
And it's not like they're gonna go back to this version of Flash to like make a reference to it.
And he explicitly keeps saying, even in that post-credit scene with Aquaman, in my timeline, you're this. In my timeline, this happens.
Right.
He's still citing it as like the timeline, his timeline. So like, if they're gonna keep Ezra Miller on as the Flash, regardless of their current issues in media and all that jazz, I think it's going to be terribly difficult for them to do that and to wrap that up without having this giant other altering event that either switches the actor, switches Ezra Miller out for someone else, or comes up with this huge, thing like with his memory or something.
You know
Like
how
there's
they're gonna
got to
do
be
it?
something to transition this,
I-
or they got to reboot the whole thing.
Here's what they're gonna do, man. They're just gonna put Flash to bed. They're not gonna talk about it. They're gonna start their new system, and then in a year, 2 years, they're gonna be like, oh, look at this new Flash we're doing, and then maybe we'll get an Ezra cameo in that movie. I personally think they're gonna pretend this movie doesn't exist. James Gunn's gonna go on with his new thing.
Which
and
is
they're gonna
fine.
That's the
That's
way.
the state
I
of
think.
things
I think
now.
that's the way they're gonna do. Is it annoying? Yes, but I think that's the way it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Because if they try to connect too many dots, it's just they're already
In a shit
they're already in the shitstorm. So I think the smartest way, although albeit frustrating, and I don't like it that way, but I think the best way is just the movie came out. They're gonna just start their new thing, pretend it never happened, and then maybe in a couple years they'll be like, "Oh, we're bringing Flash back,"
Which is fine. It's just a little disappointing.
No, it is,
because
100%.
This is the movie that
could have.
we were kind of like, when I say we, like I would say like the majority of fans were kind of looking to kind of give some clarity on like that reboot. Like this might be like a little controversial. I haven't fully thought this idea through, but theoretically, if I would have probably preferred like the movie end and like the post credit scene, whatever, or at the end of the movie, Barry like runs so fast to like fix his timeline one more time that he just like dissipates into the Speed Force.
Yep.
Right? Because that's what happened on Crisis on Infinite Earths back in the 80s. Barry was gone he was dead in the comics for like 20 years, something like that.
Yep.
But when you have a huge event like that and he just like he just becomes the Speed Force and essentially kind of, I guess, like gives birth to it or whatever,
And
you could have used that as a clean slate.
I was going to say that would have been perfect. That's exactly how I wanted it to go, because you know what? They could have used even down to the same effect in whatever Flash they decide to do going forward to imply that Barry Allen going into the Speed Force is the lightning bolt that hits the new Barry.
Like that would have been, Anyway, that I think
that would have been sick.
I think
Yes.
it's
That would have been so
I
sick.
think
I
that
think
would
it's a
have been
missed opportunity for sure.
Yeah.
I think it's a missed opportunity.
Or depending on what terms they're on with Ezra, if they can get to an agreement where like that happens, maybe they can even shoot something where there is some form of crisis at like the very, very beginning of one of their new movies, and you see that happen.
That's what
I
I
don't
mean, though.
think
I
they'll
think they're
do
going to
it,
put it to
though.
bed for a very long time.
exactly.
I think it's
I agree and I don't, because then Aquaman's coming out next. Okay, so then you blatantly have that as.
I'm not saying it's good. I'm saying that's how it's going to be, though. That's just
Yeah.
Yeah,
the
I think
movies
they're just
needed
not
to
gonna
come
be
out.
saying anything
They're
about
not going to say.
And then
anything,
James
man.
Gunn's gonna, just pretend that doesn't exist, but then his Peacemaker stuff exists still, and fully go forward with that.
Of course.
Don't talk shit about James Gunn.
Listen, I'm excited
I
for the
love
new
him.
stuff that's coming. I very strongly disagree that those characters still exist, but he's phasing other ones out.
100%.
Reboot everything.
The
Well, yeah,
Flashpoint
there's
could have been
100%.
the perfect-
As faithful now as I am, and a couple podcasts ago, I publicly did say, I made a public apology. You can go look it up. It's documented. As faithful as I am, that I think he's going to do a very good Superman movie. I still don't really like that nepotism that he has with those with those characters, like bringing them forward.
Yeah, 100%.
But I agree with you, Dan. I think they're just not going to say anything. But I think that was a missed opportunity, because you really could have used the Flash is the only character who can do that. You really could have used this movie, this character, to just wipe the slate clean. Because when you think of something like that, for example, versus what we got Iris being like, let's go on a date, which, by the way, I thought the Iris and Barry stuff was kind of awkward thrown in there, not really explored. So like I could have done without it, to be honest. I think he could have came to the conclusion, his hypothesis about the Speed Force, like without her and in another way, maybe through like Batfleck or something.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at the way the movie was left off, and then you have like Clooney coming out and like he's just there for like a joke, but like he's still not in a timeline. It's like, yeah, like once he left his timeline, he can't get back to it. It's the whole point of the Flash. That's the whole point of the, time travel theory, whatever. So when you look at, we could have had like a slate wipe clean versus what we got. I just don't.
Yeah.
It's a missed opportunity. I don't
They're
know
still in a corner, and
Yeah.
I think Dan's
But
probably
whatever.
right on this one.
Oh, 100% you're right. That's what they're going to do.
Yeah.
There's
saying missed opportunity.
there's no clean way to do it, because it's like you do it the other way, and then he goes into the Speed Force. Like, well, there's still the possibility. It's
You're
like
damned if you do, you're damned
Yeah.
if you don't.
I think it's shitty,
Am I right?
and it's not fun, but it's just gonna be water under the bridge. Okay, here's your Flash movie,
Yeah.
here's your Aquaman. All right, here's the new DCU.
But how much water can be under the bridge until it overflows? My son's got to know that forgiveness is a lonely road. Cribs on his wheel like motorhomes. No one knows the reference I'm making. Churchill
On
Downs.
that note,
Anyway, let us know what you thought of the movie in the comments. Hit us up on Twitter or Instagram. Go follow us. We just did a giveaway as well. We're going to be doing more of those. So if you're interested in seeing
more of
kind of,
them?
if you're interested in seeing what we're kind of up to behind the scenes, follow us on Instagram. Check us out on Twitter. And
As always, thank you so much for tuning in.
maybe you could win this, which was on the top of my pop.
a $3 figure of the Flash.
Actually, a hot.
That's actually
rendition
pretty
of it.
good.
Yeah,
It's a great suit.
yeah.
For what Andy, honestly, like I
Just
will
keeps
give.
talking.
Sorry, but I'm just going to say this. I'm
The
gonna.
post-credit scene of our
It's the
podcast.
post credit scene. I'm gonna give Big Ange like credit, because
Angie.
for what he was given and
Change his
all
name.
the changes that were going on,
Yeah.
I think he did a good
Andy
job.
Bruschetta.
And like the movie like looks stylistically its
Ang
own
Lee.
thing.
Special thanks to Ang Lee for making the best suit we've ever seen for Flash.
Do you guys think it'll be good for Brave and the Bold?
I think so. Well,
Are we
even just
stopping?
seeing,
After seeing this,
even
like,
just seeing the stuff he did with both Batman in this, I think he'd be good.